everyone, I'm Isabel Sparrow, Communications Manager at Carbon Copy. Welcome to this week's Instagram Live. This week we're going to be getting to know Nicola Kench, who is a volunteer at North Kensington Community Energy, which is a project run by Repowering London. So I'm just waiting for Nicola to join us in the chat. Just give me a second whilst I let her in.
Isabel, can you?
Yes, hello, hi. We got there.
Face, I'm here. I'm all kind of wired up. Things are clamped up and wired up and little booklets and all the works. All right. Hello.
Nice to finally meet you face to face, as it were. Although
this is so
sorry.
So close. I just said this is
close. It's about as close as we get at the moment, I think. So
it's so close. So we're gonna take it. Take it.
Can you start off by telling us a little bit about your background and how you got involved with North Kensington Community Energy?
I was laughing about that actually when I was looking at your questions again this morning, and it's like my background is just that I'm a desperate person, okay, in the sense that is my background, but I think I share that if you're not desperate right now, you're not with the program. So I think I share that fairly universally, I would hope. All right. I'm not an environmentally trained person. I'm a desperate person in terms of activism. I did a lot of union activism in the teachers union that I was a part of. So that's kind of my activism background per se. I encountered the joy of North Kensington community. Now, listen, if I get very emotional about North Kensington Community Energy, you're going to have to bear with me. All right. They're used to me. Bless. I froth at the mouth quite easily, right, about it because of all of the which I'll get onto in a minute. But I encountered a repowering. I knew about it years ago, but then I encountered North Kensington Community Energy via the Kensington and Chelsea Extinction Rebellion group that I was a very active part of last year. And North Kensington Community Energy came to speak at that group. And that was when the kind of, it was like, oh my God, okay, that makes sense. I'm going to take off this clicky, ridiculous thing. It was like, oh my God, that makes sense. Okay, we don't have to just talk about alternative models. We can actually contribute to them. So that's how I got involved. I paid found Neil. Hello, Neil Grant, one of the directors. I found Neil. I gave him, the pound, and I started joining and got involved in that way. Yeah.
Amazing. It's great when volunteers are this passionate. This is what all volunteers should be like. It's amazing. So I'm sure that they don't mind you being emotional. That's brilliant.
I am not alone. I mean, the team, I don't know whether now is the right time to wax lyrical about the team, but the team, for somebody like me who's not environmentally trained, who basically just operates as a desperate person. Now, there are assets in being a desperate person, kind of a cruncher, like what the hell are we going to do next, right? But I'm around such really kind of brilliant, like the team is amazing. The team is super skilled. So I know this is a kind of like, this is where people do shout outs. I want to say hello to Eva. I want to say hello. This is like shout outs. It's hilarious. I want to say hello to Dave, hello to Neil, hello to Julietta, hello to Alex. I'm going to cry if I miss anybody. Hello to Geraldine. And there are new people coming in every day who are also volunteering. And what these people tend to be is they tend to be highly educated in terms of the environmental field. But even if they aren't like me, we are all welcomed and we're all given something to do, and we're sharing those skills on different teams. So working with the team is, I mean, obviously there are two people who are professionally part of North Kensington Community Energy, who are Eva Judene, and if I say her name wrong, trouble, because I pretend I can speak French, and Dave Fuller. And then Neil Grant is one of the voluntary directors. So and they are obviously completely environmentally trained. And then there are people like me who come in and contribute, etc., from different backgrounds. So but the team to work with, oh, just absolute paradise. They're endlessly positive, endlessly proactive, endlessly skilled. It's just such an amazing, incredible, positive team. It's been my absolute pleasure I get emotional about it. Like, it's been my absolute pleasure over the last couple of days to welcome, just via our networks, etc., our WhatsApp and Facebook networks, to actually welcome in 2 new people and to just sit on the phone and go, like, you are so coming to the right place. You are so coming to a place where you will be welcomed with open arms with an amazingly spirited community who will probably give you something to do to satisfy that bloodlust for change, which I hope is coursing through veins,
Yeah.
So we can.
Yeah.
them really a lot to do. It's amazing. And sharing skills. Yeah.
Sounds fantastic. So one of the things that's been happening very recently, which presumably is why you're getting more volunteers, is the launch of this new share offer. What's that all about? What's available to people? How can they get involved?
Precisely. Well, please forgive me. I want to just say one last thing about this whole thing of volunteering, if you don't mind. Okay, sorry, you have to keep me in track. I know this, Isabel, we have an agreement. The one thing about volunteering at North Kensington Community Energy is that instead of just talking about alternative models that are earth-friendly and people-friendly, North Kensington Community Energy and Repowering London is actually, in the real world, in real time, creating those models. Okay, and that is what the great joy is. We don't have to sit around talking. Our energies and efforts right now can be contributing to real systemic change right now. My apologies, I had to say that. Well, what's going on is that the Westway Sports Centre, firstly, there's Repowering London, and then there's North Kensington Community Energy, which is effectively the North Kensington subsidiary of Repowering London with Dave and Eva, etc. And what's going on is obviously the Westway Sports Centre is a very well-known London landmark. It's just under, so for people who are not in London, there's the whole configuration of Westway. It's a big, motorway, and underneath there is a sports centre, very well-known sports centre. And what North Kensington Community Energy has set up a deal with them, which is the latest share offer, the Westway Sports Centre, North Kensington Community Energy share offer. And I'll just explain how that works. Is basically, here is the way, I'm going to kind of crunch it in very sort of literal terms. Here is the Westway Solar. It obviously consumes a certain amount of electricity via its supplier, whatever the supplier is. All right, so what they do is North Kensington Community Energy raises the money to solarize the roofs, all right, and get solar panels onto the roof. Right, that has been done already because the money is raised in advance, all right, so that the solar panels are then installed. So right now on the Westway, it's ticking, all right. The Westway is solarized, which is absolutely awesome, all right, absolutely awesome. It's a London landmark and it's been solarized, and there's £106,000 worth of solar panels on that roof right now. And what is now happening is where the community, all right, and where the people-friendly, kind of earth-friendly sort of everything now comes into play, because what now happens is that shares are sold on those, for those solar panels. Shares are now sold literally in the physical mechanics of those solar panels, and they are sold back to the public. All right, that means anybody, you don't have to live in the borough, you can literally be anybody, anywhere. All right, the share offer is now open on the Repowering London website, which is www.repowering.org/NKCE. The share offer is now live and open. And let me just explain how that works. Basically, the public buys shares. They buy back from the 106. So the money is recouped, right? So that obviously the balance is then again at zero, right? Now, the ownership of those solar panels goes out to the public with the share offer. The share offer ranges from £100. You can start buying at £100, all right? Or if you are on benefits, if you live in the borough, okay, or if you are under 25 or on benefits, your share purchase can start at £50. So even if you are under financial pressure, you can still participate in this project. You can still participate in greening the planet, really, in greening our power sources. So that's what goes on with that. And then what happens, the maximum amount, so I've got my figures here, right? The maximum amount is 20,000 that you can invest. The great news now, and it's been an extraordinarily exciting time with people kind of firing on all cylinders on all different bits of social media, etc., and different people doing different parts of, people making videos, people doing social media, people contacting external organizations, is that right now we're on we've got match funding, all right? So thank you to North Kensington Community Energy for raising that. So what we have here is from the Community Shares Booster Fund. We've got match funding agreed in advance of up to 53,000. Which means that the minute that we get to 53, what it means is it basically means the project was always safe because they do get a lot of attention and investment. But what it means is we are 100% guaranteed for any investor. Right? All we have to do is reach 53,000. Literally, we opened the share offer on Tuesday. We've already raised £6,000. Okay, and we've already, from prior to that, we already had a number of pledges of people wanting to. There were thousands of pounds worth. I don't want to quote the number yet because, of course, we'll get our hands on that number when it all starts to become real. But there was a lot of money that was actually pledged in the early promise of when the share offer was going to open. So what happens is people buy their shares. We've got the match funding. The minute we reach that amount, bang, that funding comes into effect. All right. And of course, that is negotiable in terms of, like, we might even raise more than we need to, and we'll cross that bridge at a further point in time. For those, now this is the key bit when it comes to, sorry, I'm a teacher 2 days a week, so there's a spot of pedantry here. Key bit, finger wagging. The key bit here is that all investors get a return on their investment, and the return is 3%. Okay, you get a yearly return of 3%. Now, what is critical about this is a number of things. So basically, in terms of the actual project, you save 28 tons of CO2 from being released into the atmosphere just from the West-West Centre. Okay, that's 28 tons over a year, which is awesome, firstly. Secondly, the investors, you literally are investing not only in a green future, but in your own financial welfare. It's a complete win-win. You get your 3% back. The total amount of money made over the year, 45% of that gets returned to investors after costs. 55% of the total dividends get put into a community fund. And this is the bit that is just unbelievably exciting. And I also think, let alone the 3% return, is a real motivator for investors to know that they can actually get serious money put into the community where, on a local level, where things are desperately needed. So say, for example, obviously we know there's been a lot of disinvestment or the divestment from things like youth clubs, and we know that this is a real influence on youth crime. I know this as a teacher, so it's the kind of thing where, like, you know, people can actually contribute to that. So what happens is, with that 55% of the total money made, that gets put into a community fund, and all shareholders get to vote on what that money is going to be spent on. Okay, and that is the extraordinarily awesome bit. The people-powered, people-owned, clean, green solar engine energy, they have got the power to contribute to the building of the fabric of their local needs. In terms of the community fund projected amount for this year, it's going to be £42,000. That is a lot of money. Okay, that is a lot of money. Can be done with that. It is about resourcefulness, right? And when I think when what happens when people raise their own money, there can be an incredible sense of resourcefulness of what people can do, you know. So it's the whole project is, again, is mind-blowingly, sorry, it's not mind-blowingly, it's in real time, in real life, extraordinarily exciting. And for people like me, who I cannot just sit around talking, it makes me, I just have to go, I can't bear it. People like me who have to, we have to concretize our concerns about new models and new alternative models. And this is happening right now with an established company that knows exactly what they're doing. If you are desperate to contribute and you want to be part of it, just as a volunteer, I'm hustling for volunteers again, just as a volunteer, you really can be part of the future right now. And that's why I get so emotional about it. For me, it's really satisfying. I can't sit and talk, you know, if you don't know about the failings of capitalism, you haven't been paying attention. Okay, the time right the time right now is to take action, and this is the kind of organization that can, and it's only going to grow and grow in all the right ways, all the right ways. Yeah.
So if we're thinking about how someone who lived outside of Kensington and Chelsea, and if they were thinking they want to do something like this, like they're really inspired by what you're saying, they're really inspired by what North Kensington Community Energy is doing, what would just quickly, because we're running a little bit out of time, but like, what would be like your top tips for someone who wanted to do something like this?
My top tip is I've actually had a very interesting conversation with a solar engineer this morning, which was happenstance by way of volunteering, and some of the hustle regarding the promo kind of came that way. And there are three tiers of the solar industry. One is basically utilities, one is I've actually got it, is industrial and big buildings, and the one is residential. What you can do with anybody who's residential, you need to look into the option of co-ops firstly, okay? And then you need to look at the possibility of setting up your own co-op and setting up your own solarization in that way. You can do that, all right? Firstly, I don't know a lot about the technicalities of co-op. Secondly, what you can do is literally just contact Repowering and ask them about the options. I was speaking with Dave Fuller yesterday, and I was talking exactly about that question. If you're coming from the ground up, right, rather than being provided for by NKCE or by Repowering London, what do? And what they did is, apparently there's been a new project. I don't want to quote too much about it, but there's been a new project where, in fact, it was done exactly that way. They said, we want this from you. All right. And what happens is there tends to be kind of a gray area in the evolution of a project where there might be a case for grant funding or whatever it is. And NKCE can help with that as well. So literally, they're there. They know what to do. They've done it for years. They know all the ropes in terms of all the legislation, all of the all of the ropes, all of the kind of the fine print, all of the technicalities, all of the legalities, and they will help. Particularly with that question, if you want to generate your own project, absolutely, they're open to that. So yes, find them online. They're www.repowering.org, and in North Kensington case, there's a whole lot of projects there. Historically, they've done Lambeth Solar, they've done a whole lot of bits of solar. So yes, they're available for conversation, absolutely, and advice and projects. Yeah.
Amazing. I mean, just finally, to kind of wrap things up, I wanted to ask about what gives you hope for the future. It sounds like this project is filling you full of hope and energy at the moment. But yeah, I mean, you also mentioned that you felt desperate about the climate situation. So, you know, is this kind of helping you feel less desperate taking part in this project?
There are two things, in my opinion. The planet will survive. We might not necessarily survive. Okay, so we are going to be a plasticated pile of rubble with some fronds growing over us if we don't play our cards right. Okay, so on some level, that's the big picture. It's really a case of we're in a race against time to go net zero, and that is really about the global grid. We have got to clean up fossil fuels as a source instantaneously. I see it on three levels. I see it on a very literal kind of human sort of anatomy kind of model. I see there's power, what we take in, our consumption, and our waste. All right, and what gives me hope is, from my point of view, and it's interesting because it is a bit personal. I cannot, on a personal level, imbibe too much bad news because I literally get so badly affected by it, I can barely get out of bed the next morning. Okay, and I think there comes a place where it's like, do I choose to be, and no disrespect to those who do I choose to be a collectivist and just share bad news all day, or do I work to actually, like bust a gut to go and do something? And so the call that I would make to people, and this is why NKCE is so unbelievably refreshing and yes, powerful as an option for people, is that your skills are needed. You are needed, all right? And you can contribute right here and right now to an extraordinary model that flips capitalism on its head, all right? And I don't believe that we're going to change the system from without, from opining and crying and being right, because you just don't get to fight power with being right. You will just be fobbed off as a tree dancer. Love tree dancing, but you will be fobbed off. You have got to fight power with power in the literal sense of the word. Them be my thoughts.
I think that's a great place to end it. Thank you so much for such an impassioned conversation. It's been wonderful. And hopefully we can keep following the progress of this amazing project. I'm really, really excited about it.
So excited, so exciting, such a wonderful team to work with. Just thank you to you, Isabel. I love your website. We love your website. Thank you for the support, and just a message out there. Find us online. We are on Facebook. Go and message us. Find us on Instagram. Come and volunteer. We always need you. All right. You are always welcome. All right.
Cool. Okay. Bye then. It's lovely to speak to you. Cheers. Bye.